Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Sunday, October 19th. Now, what brings you here to this video is the fact that, or what brought me here to this video, is the fact that I've been in this process of really wondering what is it that I'm going to be doing. And I know my goal and I know what I would like to be doing is living a life where I'm traveling, eating fine food, taking care of myself, pursuing further goals within other aspects of my life, like jujitsu. I want a wife. I want to build a family. Um, and I want to do all of these things. I really did, and I do enjoy this. I enjoy trading, and not the specific day-to-day trading, but the the aspect of what trading really is. And I enjoyed learning about the fundamentals, learning learning about discipline, regarding staying in the process, sticking to your rules. I enjoyed building my own rules, not to mention challenging myself to follow these rules, as well as the risk management aspect of it. Forced me to audit myself and start treating myself as the business, because I am the person who executes this strategy, pressing buy, pressing sell, doing the research outside of trading hours. But I did enjoy facilitating that and treating myself as the business. And this treating myself as the business started a couple years ago when I had started my own landscaping business. I was working a job at this company called Shields, and I was in the service area fixing mainly bikes, but also random equipment ranging from moving in treadmills um, all the way to tennis rackets, stringing up tennis rackets, baseball mitts. You get the gist. And I was working that job. Not to mention, I have my mom. She owns this company, and um, it is a medical device. It is a medical device and battery retail company. So they focus on defibrillator mounts as well as batteries for really anything, ranging from their clients ranging from hospitals all the way to fire department, and then um, even some government contracts. So I had experience there throughout my life, probably since I was at the age of like 10. I had experience of going into the office and understanding, or not understanding, but looking and observing what is what is this company and what do they even do? And I didn't even know how to label a medical device and battery retailing company. I couldn't have put the words on it for the last however long. But with all this being said, treating myself as a business, having landscaping company, because as I said, I had experience with the business that my mom had owns, and then not to mention working that other job, leading into other jobs in between, working multiple jobs at once. But where did my interest really lie? Um, it was actually I felt a feeling of satisfaction, deep satisfaction, when I knew I was making a change, and that happened to be when I had my hands on the project. And I had a lot of freedom within the business that my mom owns. I was able to manufacture, or not man yeah, manufacture those batteries, see how it works, which it wasn't very difficult, but then also you understand supply, demand, and what it actually looks like inside of a business. And you understand packaging. You understand what is a system, And nobody calls it a system. Nobody really called it a system. It just is order of operations, which is a synonym for system. So I had all this experience doing these things lead into junior year of high school. I started a landscaping business, escaping um, the hourly wages from companies like I said, Shields, which I had my first taste at what is it like. Uh, but that's hold on right now. I would say I had left that job not really knowing anything about. I mean, I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur because as an entrepreneur, you make your own schedule, you pay yourself and you live a fine life. And regarding the food chain, you are really the the sun in this case. The operations, the individuals, they revolve around you. And I started to learn what really is this like, and it was the a very elementary experience, and that's how I would label it, to say like, well, how did I get clients? The only thing I really knew, just go to the door, people are inside. And luckily after COVID, a lot of people were inside. And I mean, it started to work out. I had been out knocking for 5 hours on one day. I got no clients. That was my first day. And then go out the next day, you find a client, and then it's that probabilities game. So spent time doing that. The first client was my real learning experience. You write up your quote. First you quote, and how do you even know how much something's going to cost you? And then you find out by um you find out by quoting a job that is probably the equivalent of like a $500 job. You end up quoting it for $200, and you start to realize, hey, we can't be making these kind of decisions, and you can't make the decisions on the spot. That was essential too. Likely the walk away learning lesson would be preparation is key. The devil is in the details. Now, where did I learn this best? So, as I was knocking and knocking and knocking and doing this for about first few months, I was knocking until I was too busy to knock, and I had clients. I had properties where I needed to be there and I needed to get the work done, and that was when I stopped door knocking. After that, I noticed that later in that season, there was this wave after the momentum had been created. So I had been doing this door knocking, been doing these things, and been doing these things such as knocking, posting on Nextdoor app, posting wherever else I could really find it, wherever else I could make an impact. And then I had the clients after doing the work. Then came the next wave of momentum after that was the people who was the what's the word? Was the word of mouth customers. So then that was great too. I learned about what it was like to have scumbag clients that would come over to you and ask you to do something for half the price or ask you at the end of the day just to get their stuff done. But I also learned that it was like these these I learned these experiences by simply experiencing them, and I really enjoyed this process. It felt like it felt like less of a job. When I say job, you're clocking in, but even before you clock in, you see that shit on the schedule and you can't really stand it. I mean, I had times where I'm like the first day where I had literally clocked out. I clocked out recently at this other job, and I thank the manager for helping me clock out or telling me that it was time to go. I was like, what the fuck am I thanking this dude for? So that was a separate issue. that ties into the whole scheme of things. But then we move into landscaping next year. And then that next year I had I didn't even really door knock. I don't even think I door knocked that next year. I just had clients from the last year and then clients that kept growing as they saw me outside. That was really how I found growth. So I guess that's important for me to note. And I want to, how can I even put this shit up further? Putting down here, I have this whiteboard down here. Now, I can finish this dialogue or I can just start right now with this business plan. So let me just speed up through. Before I even speed up through, I want to tell you what my goal is. Now, my goal is to recap what worked, what didn't, write down what worked, write down what didn't, and we can go through this process, a rinse and repeat process. Now, this is in the hopes of providing providing the learning lesson and preparation, because as I said, preparation is key. Now, why is preparation key? Preparation is key because with my first landscaping business, the first season, I had realized that, okay, you get the clients by knocking on the doors, right? Great. What right. No, so that was super simple. Then you realize that one, if I have all this scheduling done in a notes app, this is probably not sustainable. And it was a real pain in the ass, if I'm going to be honest. I did it just to write down and what did I need to do as a baseline in order to show up each week to service these clients. What was the easiest thing that I could have done? And it was the notes app. Now, looking back, that's something that right, if I had spent more time during preparation, because there were probably those 1 in 10 chances where I either was getting to the end of the week and put that client at the last of the list, and I wasn't prepared on a schedule. Therefore, I was running on a hypothetical schedule off my mind and off of whatever was on the notes app, and this created just a car accident, a repeating car accident. Now, from that time, and we're just going to speed up to now so then we can go back and talk about it. Now, in that time, I had literally I had gotten through that first season, which was fine, and I was break even. I don't even think I was break even because I think I was in profit, but I just didn't really, like I said, if I didn't even set a scheduling thing and I had it in my, if I didn't even set a scheduling system for my clients, how do you think the finances were looking? Now I had bought this equipment and things worked great, but as far as the finances go, I couldn't even tell you if I made profit or if I was at an entire loss, which I don't believe I was. I believe I did great in that first season, and then in that next season, it was a bit of the same. So, if I didn't prepare to do something different that next season, the history is likely to repeat itself. That's also something that I learned. Boom. Get through that second year, and then there was a lot of the same lessons in the first year, but I had the confidence and I felt fine. So went through that second year, and I'm just gonna go by really quick because I've already gotten 15 minutes in this. All right, I from there I had gotten to the end of the season, and it was great timing because I was moving out, going to Florida. Now I had sold all the landscaping equipment, had the hopes to sell all the landscaping equipment. That was my plan. And then I'm selling the landscaping equipment, and I had the opportunity to sell the clients as well, which I had experience with that too, and which that was awesome to have that icing on the cake. So that was something that I had understood was, um, I'm just not gonna go through that right now. It will come up when I feel like it's necessary, but I feel as though I need to put the pen to paper right now, and let's start this. So, what I'm creating right now is a business plan. This is a business plan for my next landscaping business to operate in Florida. Let's get into this shit. Into this bitch. All right, y'all boys. So, we have this business plan here. Year 1. Year 2. And let's just make it worked. It didn't work. No, that's not how I want to do it. What worked? Actually, I think I can better off say what didn't work, and then I can get to what worked. Preparation. Finance. Regarding the work, though, the work was great. Preparation on the work regarding how execution went, it was great. Things went great. But on the back end, I believe things could have ran even more smooth. Okay, I could just do this in separate, but preparation. What didn't work was preparation. Now specifically, you have the finances, profit and loss, even the simple like assets. How much your equipment costs. I mean, my bank account, personal bank account, and my landscaping account were under the same account. Therefore, I wasn't like I could split up due to my best, but I could split up my best in my mind to say, okay, well, I made $40. I made a total of $200 this week, but am I gonna dedicate this towards the next week for gas? Like I wasn't doing anything as far as preparation goes. So we said preparation, schedule. Now, how I did this before was a client or a week 1 and a week 2. Week 1 would be the clients under week 1. Week 2 would be those next clients on that list to finish. And I would just go off of week A and week B. And then the landscaping issues were dealt with under just within those days. My hopes would be to finish those days probably on that Thursday or that Friday, maybe on a Monday, and then the landscaping issues would be in between those days. But scheduling clients, hours, expectations. I want to look at things on a from a bird's eye view. Bird's eye view. Meaning, instead of working as somebody who's just trying to operate on the engine, I want to know how the engine's doing as far as numbers go. Now, what I can say worked. I'm not done with what didn't work, but what did work was the baseline of knowing exactly minimum what I need. Working with minimum equipment. So I knew what worked at the start. Door knocking. Door knocking did work. And something that I face also is the fact that I'm in Florida now, not Minnesota. So things are a little bit different, and I'm not entirely sure unless I have reached out and faced the market. But right, door knocking, neighborhood app. Posting. So in the first year, as I had mentioned, I had decided on this business. I had made an emblem, created a name, and then I made these printed papers for the company. And these were not necessarily unprofessional. They were the best of my ability, but they could have been more simplistic or looked better. I could, in the future. So the flyers did work, but then I want to create these. I'll create the website, but going through what worked was having someone, a serviceman, someone to call when the plan failed or when plan needed iteration, required iteration. So the first day I had gone door knocking, right? And I said I went for 5 hours and I got no clients. Now, I had known a buddy at the time who had originally got me into landscaping from that Shields business. He had said, "Hey, I'm doing landscaping. This shit pays great. Like, what are you doing? Why are you not landscaping?" And I was like, let me try that shit. This individual, he grew up, I think he grew up working on engines, or he knew information about engines, and he was skilled with like I said, with engines. So this was super helpful because when my plan failed, this guy had a zero turn. And a zero turn, if you don't know, is one of those, it's those mowers where you're moving. It's like the person sitting on the seat and they're driving around on the lawn. I was using a push mower through my whole years, a push mower. What didn't work that I can think of now Sharpen the blades, man. Sharpen the blades. Attention to detail is imperative. That worked. Weed control worked. It didn't work. Quoting client. House too soon. And this goes back to when I had mentioned you put up an estimate for a house being $200, and then this house ends up being a $400 in value of labor. You are short $200. That is painful. What did work was adapting to what was asked. What didn't work, using best tool. No. What didn't work was not investing not investing into a better mower. A mower that gets the job done faster. What worked? Hire when you can. Um, so these were the essential things to understand what worked and what didn't. I feel like these were the key points. I'm gonna take a picture of these. And then I want to I did some research even before this on on Reddit. And my goal with this, just to learn some more things, I'm gonna write down some more things. And then I want to write what will work. And this covers something I really haven't done, but um, but coming from the research that I did here, how I can apply it to the business as it is. Um, yeah, so this is stuff that I haven't done, but I will do. So, what will work? LLC, EIN. I want to be legit. So, I want to get the necessary LLC, as well as any other type of registration that I need. Because the last thing that I need is paying some fee that could have been prevented by paying some other horseshit fee. So you got to just do it. You got to just do it. So, LLC, business insurance. These are all things that in time are necessary. Now, if you have no clients, this obviously doesn't matter at all. So, these things will be solved in time, not really something that I need to get done before I get on foot. But I need to know as well how, because what worked best for me was having a truck to bring this equipment around. What worked as well was taking out a loan from a responsible individual that has an excess amount of funds that is looking to loan in order to receive interest. So, taking a loan and paying back, that worked. Plan for the worst. Multiply costs by 4 because a business usually costs 4 times the amount that you even expect in year one. That comes from someone knowledgeable that I have spoken to. Work on the offer. rainy day fund, these things are essential because say the mower breaks down and it don't work no more. What am I gonna do? What if I didn't prepare for this with a fund? Reputation. Reputation works. A virtual phone number. This separates business from you. And then we want to use a client service app. Billable app. What didn't work was manual billing. Something that would have worked better would have been to get these clients on this app where they have a reoccurring monthly fee. The goal here is to have a lowest overhead, the lowest overhead cost, low overhead cost, because I don't want to pay a subscription if I can't afford it. Therefore, I must know better. So, I'm going to use likely Zoho. Single member and multi-member LLC. Use the first if you anticipate being the only shareholder, and using the second if you anticipate the possibility of issuing shares. Issuing shares likely being giving the employee shares in the company. You may file a single member tax form as long as you have not paid dividends to any of the shareholders. Alternatively, form a subchapter S corporation to gain single taxation and protection of personal assets, but you lose the freedom of issuing shares in the simplified LLC way. Get an EIN from the IRS from which to pay employees and subcontractors. Make both classes fill a W-9 upon employment. Each year you will send out a 1099 miscellaneous forms that state total payments to each person or entity in January. Keep accurate records. Open a business checking account. Yep, there we go. What didn't work? Right, I said finance. Business checking account. For the most part, keep the balances low, enough to run the business, but no excess that you might lose by lawsuit because it is unprotected by the LLC. Cold calling. Property management companies. Realtors. And HOAs. Things will become deductible, right? Not to mention the fact that take out a business loan, things become deductible regarding taxes. Social media. Consider buying former business. Used set of equipment says you've been doing it a while. Used clean says you are meticulous. Be prepared to upsell. You don't do landscaping, you do estate management, estate maintenance. Personalized packages. Become friends. Arborist. Website. What did work was upsell. Don't buy what you can lease. Don't lease what you can rent. Don't rent what you can borrow. What did work? I guess, yeah, but used equipment. Get this shit off. Trimming and cleanups. Taxes plus bookkeeping. Facebook, Google reviews. Don't just be the guy in the truck. So why by just don't just be the guy in the truck means when you think about the person that mows your lawn or mows the lawn, say you live in an apartment, say you live in like a, I don't know what I even call the place that I'm in, but it's like a two floor, 8 separate building lot, and there's a lot of grass in the area. So even when you think about those individuals, they're just the landscaping guys to you. They're not really anything else. Therefore, when anything really comes out of that, when if say even if a landscaper were to approach you, someone who works a landscaping job, you think of them simply as the landscaper. And in your mind, everything else that they could be becomes a vacuum. It doesn't exist. So I need to differentiate myself, and how I will do this is by uh, building rapport. I feel like that's the best that I can do for now. Um, all right, that's as far as I got to take a piss. I'll be right back. Can I pause it? I can't even pause it. I'll be back. All right, y'all boys. This is the current plan, or I guess this is the current write-up of my mind, a brain dump at least. So what didn't work, and let me write this, I'm going to say this so that I can have it within GPT, and it's on paper instead of, or it's on text instead of written down. So, all right, chat. I'm currently building a business plan, and I want this business plan to be bulletproof. So the information that comes from here is your repository, but at the same time, I want you to be my right hand man. Everything that I'm not, and best at whatever I'm simply good at. Let's get into this. So I was going through my mind to say what worked, because I had my own landscaping business all the way back in a couple years ago in Minnesota. So I was thinking to myself, what works, what doesn't, what do I like doing, what don't I like doing, and I really did like landscaping. Therefore, why not bring it down here and do my best? Because Lord knows there's like thousands and thousands and thousands of homes and landscaping that is available. So let's get into this. I started off by writing down what didn't work. I realized that preparation is essential. The devil is in the details. And this goes really for everything that I write down further. But this is something that I feel was important to capture, was preparation is key. Now, preparation specifically could go into finance, schedule, the overall view of the company, LLC, insurance, virtual phone number. I mean, preparation was all of this information. So, what else didn't work? Finance, profit and loss, assets, equipment, gas. Accounting for all of these expenses is absolutely essential, but to also think about this in a way of a bird's eye view, to not only be actively paying these bills, but to expect the next bill, understand where we currently are regarding the business and regarding where the expectations are going, goals are. I feel like to have a solid understanding of finance is essential, because before my other landscaping business, I ran financing off of messaging, and it was kind of like I was the engine. I didn't really have anywhere that I placed information down to understand where we are along this process, even during the season. And I handled each client by themselves, and I just did this on a larger scale, which was not very helpful. What also did work was automatic messaging. So that's what did work, and I'm going to save that for later. But what automatic messaging did was sped up that conversation with the client. I wasn't there to talk shop. I was there to get in and get out. But while building rapport, next thing that didn't work. Like I had said, with schedule, I had clients on week 1 and clients on week 2. That was how I ran it. Now, that did work. It did work. Could it have been better? Probably. What didn't work, or what would have worked better, will work, is to have automatic messaging for updates. It would be nice if this information could seamlessly add into the client's day-to-day basis, not day-to-day basis, but for them to not have to worry about it and understand that everything's covered. When they receive a message, it's like Max is on his way. He'll be over in X amount of minutes for this job. So that was something that I'll mention later. But sharpen blades. I need to not only sharpen blades, so I didn't that didn't work in that first year. I didn't realize that you had to sharpen the blades. And now that might seem funny, but I didn't know. That was my first time starting a lawnmower that year, or like 2 weeks before I actually started knocking door to door. But sharpen blades, change oil, these were weekly things that needed to be happening. So preventative maintenance, that was something that I did not do. I treated the machine as if it was going to end. The life of the machine was going to end with the landscaping process. So if I was done at year 2, I didn't really take care of the engine for year 5. I didn't think about that. Just worked with what I needed to now. And I was good at surviving. Don't get me wrong, but we can do it better. Next was quoting the client's home too soon. I quoted a client's home without really understanding the full extent to pricing. So you must understand worst case scenario on every project. Now I'm talking about preparation, but this preparation needs to be divided into every single project. Not divided, but implemented into every single project. Preparation was necessary. Not investing into a mower that gets the job done faster. That is something I didn't do. So that was a mistake, because if I had mowed the lawn faster, I would have been done with the job faster, allowing me more time to get more clients and do what the owner does, grow the company and facilitate. That was something that I would do next differently. Next is manual billing. What didn't work was with manual billing is that it's not seamless. There are many variables, not to mention the variable of yourself that you're leaving open to mistakes. This is where automatic billing on an app, say Zoho, allows you to have billing seamless and not have to ask the client after every mow. That was something that I was doing, was messaging the client after I mow the lawn. And this, in the grand scheme of things, if the bill had been paid and the message didn't need to be sent to say, hey, can you send me, or can you give me this amount of money? That would have just been another piece of the puzzle that had been a little bit faster, a little bit better. That's probably what the 1% were doing, was that automatic billing. Now let's get to what worked. So what did work was the baseline working equipment. I had what I needed to survive, which was a mower, which was a push mower, a weed whacker, and then a blower would have been awesome to have as well. But those were the two that I used. But to really have this seamless, a mower, a blower, a whacker, those are things that would provide this a job, this a value of a job. But like I said, when you're working at the start of the company and you want your overhead costs to be as least as possible, I know now exactly what it is that I need. What also worked: door knocking, neighborhood app, posting on social media. This was how I really started to gain traction with clients. Someone to call when the plan needed iteration. This is also like a fallout guy, the guy I call to when shit hits the fan. Now, I don't necessarily have this connection yet, but keeping an eye on knowing who might this person be when the day comes that I need to call them, that is something that's important. Attention to detail is imperative. This is something that honestly sits on top with preparation. The attention to detail is exactly what, well, I don't want to say is exactly what separates us from others, because that's very cliche. That's probably what everyone else is saying. But attention to detail, getting the job done to the best. Hold on, left out. Getting the job done to the best of the ability was essential, and we need to keep that in mind. The goal is to have no complaining clients, but not to spend too long on doctoring up the property, getting the service done as expected, with even a touch of extra. But we need to satisfy the basic human needs. Weed control. Weed control worked. It was an additional cost that I felt I could run up on each person because there it is impossible to have a lawn without having weeds. So weed control was something that worked. Adapting to what was asked. This allowed me to not only start lawn mowing and doing doing lawn mowing when I had minimum experience, but it also allowed me to grow the company because I started pressure washing the concrete, the driveways. I started mulching. I started what else did I do? I washed cars, so I wasn't afraid to take on a different job. And by building rapport, the client felt comfortable enough to come to me to ask me to do whatever it was that they wanted done on the property. Hire when you can. So hiring was something that I undervalued, and it was kind of because it wasn't something that I needed to be done. But now that I'm thinking about it, like I had mentioned earlier, by hiring other individuals, I'm able to do what I'm best at, which is facilitating and growing the company. Because if I'm not going to, because I would need to train the individual in order to get them on speed to door knock. And I doubt I could find individuals that could door knock, but let's get back to the basics here. Hiring when you can, especially someone to mow the lawn, because mowing the lawn is something that anyone can do. And that would be effective looking forward. Having a truck to load the equipment, that was very helpful. I had a truck at the time where I could put the mower in, could lift up the mower, throw it in the back, get the whacker, put it in the back, and then I was on my way. So that was very helpful. That was like essential to having this job. Was the truck helped me very well. And it is imperative to expect the worst to happen. It is essential to expect the worst to happen because I had this time where I was spraying weeds for this one property, and I ended up killing her whole bush that was right in front of the house. And I mean, I can show you right now, but I will show you eventually after I get done with this. Having so I mentioned that. Taking a loan and paying back that loan. That worked very well because that freed me up to get whatever equipment I needed and then do that job where the equipment was needed and get that money that paid for that equipment for that time. So one property ended up paying for one piece of equipment, allowing me to use that piece of equipment on multiple properties. That was great. Reputation. Reputation is essential because followed by attention to detail. When you have attention to detail combined with someone who is a social individual, they will repeat the kind of work that you have done. And what does that mean? Repeat the work that you have done is if you put in shitty work, doing a shitty job, they will respond to their friends and family by telling them how shitty of a job their landscaper did. Do not forget. Upselling. Upselling was essential, similar to the way that I was upselling weed control. That is essential. Automatic sped up conversation. So automatic conversation was essential. Copy an AI generated message, send it over to the client, and copy that message and send it over to all of the clients. while still building rapport. Week A and B worked. Now, I don't want to stray away from the fact that I was less prepared with the schedule, but I know that working on A and B basis was pretty seamless, if you can believe that. What will work? Now, in the future, what I will be doing differently, I will need an LLC and an EIN. I will need business insurance. I will need to plan for the worst. I will multiply my expected costs by 4 before even financing or looking for a loan. I will work on the offer because the offer is essential. The offer is everything, as well as everything else, but the offer is you getting your foot through the door. And you are a service-based business. Therefore, your service, your offer should be up to par. A rainy day fund is necessary. With my other business, I didn't have a rainy day fund, and good thing nothing really major had happened regarding finances. But when you work on a bigger scale and have bigger machines, planning for the worst and having a rainy day fund is imperative. Virtual phone number separating the business from you. A virtual phone number, I don't even really need to explain it, but that is essential. I think I can get one through Google, but like I said, it is essential. Client service billing. So, client service billing, maybe using an app like Zoho, where it's like the first 1,000 leads are free. Next is low overhead. Low overhead is essential. Hopefully, for the virtual phone number, it's free. Hopefully, for the client service, it's free, but we'll see. I need to have a business checking account. This allows me to separate on a legal level my personal finances from the business finances. Not to mention is nice to have for taxes and bookkeeping, but as well, it's important. So, next one, cold calling property management companies, realtors, and HOAs. Cold calling, that is essential. So I will need to generate leads and do that process, but I need to have it up as information. Social media, using the Nextdoor app, that is essential too moving forward. And even moving forward, when I am actually on the property and I go through the dialogue with the client, built rapport, say I have this client and I go into the job, I can make a small video recapping what I did, how I got this lead in the first place, and what I plan to do on the property, how this property leads into other properties, or just a post, just a regular post. Before and after post, who knows? Just a post. I must just have a post a day. Post a day. And even automating those posts too. So automate those posts. Everything, as much as I can, should be automated. Even the cold calling can be automated. I'll have to go through AI and likely make an agent, go through talking with that agent, and I'm not really sure how I can create a virtual assistant, one that does client outreach. That's the goal, but we'll see. I will look into as well buying a former business, because if I buy a former business that does a lot of the getting this movement going, getting the momentum going, instead of starting from ground zero, I can do this preparation and hopefully have someone who's willing to sell at a fine price. Next is label your business as estate maintenance, personalized packages. Because like I said, I want to play off of the human needs. not in a manipulation way, but as well as in a manipulation way to provide um, the most suitable outcome for me, I guess. So, estate maintenance and personalized package, senior home care. Um, I can think more about that one. Become friends with the bug, insect, brick masons, arborists, and whomever else, realtors. That's important. Next is a website. Website is important. A clean looking website that works fine, looks good. That is essential. Something that is essential as well. Don't buy what you can lease. Don't lease what you can rent. Don't rent what you can borrow. Next, used equipment. Used equipment is great for low overhead. Trimming and cleanups. Trimming and cleanups can generate a decent amount of money on top of the mowing fee. I hope I mentioned preventative maintenance as well. Preventative maintenance with the sharpened blades. Next, taxes and bookkeeping. Taxes and bookkeeping are absolutely essential. It's not very difficult, but it's very simple. It's not easy, but it is very simple. Must keep track. Next, don't just be the guy in the truck. We need to build rapport as well as have the client facing aspect to be as clean as possible. Automatic messaging for updates. Automatic messaging is essential. It's easier, it's less on my mind instead of texting the client instead of texting the client when I'm done. I already have a system that's built in place to already text the client. I need to post a day, post every day. And that's the plan. Now my plan with ChatGPT is to hopefully um, hopefully piece everything together. Now I know all this information, I can write it all out, but can I actually put it into a plan and work that plan? That's the question. I also need to write out what am I expecting the monthly fees to be? What am I expecting this year's fees to be? What am I expecting? Everything. I got to get it down. Got to write it down. Build a plan. All right, y'all boys. That's the plan for today. That is the intro. What's coming on the next video will likely be, what does this look like? We just talked about everything, but what does this actually look like?